All right, so we're rolling through our day 2 here. For some of you who are just starting, you've been here, just getting here, or some of you were here this morning for our panel discussion. I just want to invite you, if you're feeling already a little stressed or a little stretched out of your comfort zone, maybe a little triggered by anything that you've heard, that you tend to your body. We know that whiteness is something that is in our bodies. So take time if you need to hold your body, take rest if you need to, and go outside, get something to drink, get something to eat. Take some time to close your eyes and maybe meditate. Maybe if you're stressed out, you need to take a break for a little while. That's totally fine. If you're not feeling that, then I would invite you to lean in and get ready to get stretched. Get ready to get stretched. I am so excited about our next presenter. And I have to tell a story before I give a bio about Dr. Ije. And so I want to make sure we all know how to pronounce Ijeoma Ononuju's name. All right? Ijeoma Ononuju. I do okay? All right. You got it now, right? Ijeoma Ononuju. You can say Dr. Ije, but I think it's important for us to speak each other's real names, right? Don't you? I saw Dr. Ije this past summer when I took my daughter Lucy, who is 12, to a transracial adoption camp called PAC Camp. PAC Camp, it was started out in California, and there's one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. And I went to PAC Camp, and I thought, they do all this great anti-racist training for the parents while the kids are off being learning together. And I thought, I'm all woke on whiteness. I don't need this training that they've got here. But I went, I went, and then Dr. Ije showed up as the speaker. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And so when I went up and got a chance to talk to Dr. Ije, he was willing and interested in coming to be here for our conference. So I'm just so happy. This has been a year in the making. It's been a while in the making. And so I know he's got a word for you. So let me give an introduction. Dr. Ije is the chair of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusive Education in the Graduate School at Truro University. He draws upon his Nigerian heritage as a thought leader and impassioned voice for black leadership, social and economic justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the bold redefinition of possibilities for diverse workforces and communities. An executive leader, innovative PhD and catalyst, Ije drives systemic change through positive influence, a servant mindset, and an innate gravitational pull that inspires stakeholders around collaborative solutions. He is passionate about serving youth and communities, and we are incredibly grateful to have Dr. Ije here with us today. Let's give a round of applause and welcome Dr. Ije.
How's everybody doing this morning? Let me find my presentation. I just had it. There it is. It's good to be here with you all. I appreciate the opportunity. First, I want to give honor to Dr. Parker. Appreciate you. I didn't get an opportunity to hear you last night, but from all accounts, you set the stage, and hopefully I'm able to pick up the baton from here. Reverend Stewart, he doesn't know this, but I'm working on a book right now, and I'm working on the second chapter of my book where I talk about identity, one of the identities that I hold in highest regard, because all of us have multiple identities, but one of the identities that I hold in highest regard is Big Bro. The first thing he said to me this morning was, "How you doing, Big Bro?" That meant a lot to me because even though this is our first time meeting, you recognize my identity, you recognize who I was, and so I honor you for being able to see me in my truest form, so thank you. I feel bad because I don't know if I'm going to give you anything new. I've been sitting here, I've been listening. I don't want this to be a redundant conversation, but I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of my knowledge with you. The word that I got right before I came up here was perspective. I walked into the restroom here. Have any of y'all been into the restroom here? Okay. So I walked into the restroom. Y'all know there's a mirror on the wall? And so I said, this is a funky looking bathroom, right? It's the first thing I said to myself. I said, this is a funky bathroom, right? And I took a step. I took a step into the mirror and I said, whoa, who is that? It was me. Scared. I said, oh, I almost cussed in church. Like, it scared me real quick to see me in the mirror. I said, oh, it's a mirror. And that's when it's like perspective, right? The mirror was always there. I just never saw it. And it wasn't until I took a step into the mirror and saw my reflection that I was like, I got it. It's when I saw the true shape and character of the bathroom. That's all we're trying to do here today. You might have seen this world a certain way and didn't realize that it was shaped differently than how you've seen it. And if I could just hold up a mirror to you for just a small portion of today, to where you can look and say, oh, I got it. Because it made me take a step back and say, let me gather myself and see what I'm seeing. And all of a sudden does that make sense? That's all I'm really trying to do today. So we'll see if we can have a little bit of fun. They gave me 90 minutes. I don't know if I got 90 minutes in me. But I'm going to give you all that I got. All right. So they taught me in school that you got to start with an agenda, that some of us get anxious when we don't know what's coming next. So I'm Pentecostal, so we starting with some scripture. I'm an educator, so I'm going to give you some educational scripture, which is going to be James Baldwin. I also am a son of God, and we in church, so I'm going to give y'all some biblical scripture. Then I'm going to talk about Bronfenbrenner's ecological model, which is super dense, super academic, but I'm going to break it down to y'all in a way that you understand it. We'll talk a little bit about the phenomenology of whiteness, focusing specifically on the orientation of bodies, neutrality, currency, and supremacy. And then I'm going to ask you some questions at the end of it all. Y'all good with that? Legislation is the greatest proof that we got a problem. Now, I'm serious when I say this. Anytime you got to create laws and rules to govern proper behavior, it means a problem exists. Anytime somebody of any race, color, creed, sexuality, gender, they come to me and they say, well, what do you mean the problem exists? I say, have you not looked at the rule book? Have you not looked at our laws? If it wasn't a problem, they wouldn't have had to legislate it. You got to really think about that. There was a whole civil rights bill that was passed. If whiteness didn't exist, civil rights bills wouldn't exist. We legislate it because if we don't legislate it, you won't do right. Let me say that again in a different way. If we don't legislate it, I won't do right. Because the legislation doesn't just govern you, it governs me. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't always do what I'm supposed to do because at the end of the day, I'm selfish. I'm looking out for me and my best interest and my comfort. And my comfort sometimes goes against what I know is your comfort and what's best for you and what makes you. Is this making sense? Y'all with me so far? Y'all looking at me kind of strange out there. I don't want no problem. I don't want nobody messing with me and these. I'm just playing. Don't pay me no attention. All right. I like to have fun. Y'all okay with that? This stuff is serious, but I just want to have a little fun with you. I changed this morning. You know, I told my brother, and I ain't even gonna lie to you, I'm feeling extremely emotional. If I start crying, don't clap, don't just pretend like I ain't crying, but this is how I'm feeling this morning. And so, normal routine, I wake up 5:30. Even on the East Coast, I wake up 5:30, and I say, let me get ready. Put on my music. I had a scripture of Baldwin's, it wasn't sitting right. You ever just have something and it just ain't sitting right? The word that you had, it just ain't working no more. And so I had to go on YouTube. I said, I'm going to just play him, because I knew I needed to come from the book of Baldwin, but I just needed to play him until I found the scripture that was right for today. And so this is what I landed on. This means, in the case of an American Negro born in that glittering republic, and the moment you were born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone, every face is white, and since you have not seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. Remember what I was just talking about, that bathroom, that perspective, that mirror? It comes to as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that Gary Cooper killing the Indians, when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country which is your birthplace, to which you owe your life and your identity. Oh my God. You see how they trying to do us right now? I guess that's telling me I'm too long with it. To which you owe your life and identity has not, in this whole system of reality, evolved a place for you. Let me just say this, because I always have to bring this up. A few years ago, we had some controversy around this brother named Colin Kaepernick. And when I read this quote this morning, it brought him to my mind, because I said, here was a black man raised by white folks, so everything he known from birth, you feel what I'm saying? And so what we saw back in, 16, 17, we saw a black man who realized that he was rooting for his own death. That he had pledged allegiance to a family that he didn't understand, did not necessarily have his best interest in mind, even though that family loved him. I was watching his Netflix documentary, and I remember one of the things that stood out is he was telling his dad, he says, hey, folks is treating me different. I'm trying to understand this, Pops, but folks is treating me different. And his Pop said, it's because you didn't shave your mustache. I'm a 13-year-old boy. You telling me this little, I know because I ain't got no mustache, right? This little peach fuzz is so distinguishable about me that people can see it and begin to treat me differently? Is that, so if I just shave this, Dad, everything will be all right? And it made me think that he kept shaving his mustache, shaving it, shaving it, shaving it, and shaving it until he realized it wasn't the mustache. Until he realized it wasn't the mustache. And then all of a sudden he was like, I have a problem with what I'm pledging allegiance to, because it's not pledging allegiance back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, but has it said I pledge allegiance to Ijeoma? Have you pledged allegiance to me? And all of my, I apologize, I'm talking too loud. Y'all good? I told y'all I was emotional this morning. I was a little excited. All right, let's go to Matthew, because this is a Bible-led church. Matthew 22 through 28. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. Jesus did not answer a word, so his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. He replied, it is not right to take of the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Yes, it is, Lord, she said. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus said to her, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. I included this scripture because I was thinking about that first scripture from Baldwin. And it occurred to me that for many of us of color, the moment that we realized we were of color is when somebody told us it's not right to give the dogs the children's bread. You got to really understand what I'm saying to you. The first time many of us realized that we were different is when somebody called us a dog and said, you aren't worthy of the things that you are asking for. Father, can I just have a job? It ain't right to give you a job because you a dog. Father, I just want housing. It ain't right to give you housing because you a dog. And then you have to say, but don't dogs get dog houses? Yeah, you're right. So let's give you the crap in the corner that don't have no heat, that don't have no insulation, that don't have no front door. You right, dogs get houses too. Dogs get bread too. Dogs get jobs too. But they don't get the type of jobs that the children get. The first time many of us understand. Y'all with me? So what we're talking about here when we talk about whiteness as this system, I want you to understand, it wasn't invented yesterday. We got biblical examples. We got biblical examples of the church saying, turn this person away because they don't fit in with whiteness. The way they worship you, Lord, ain't the same the way we worship you. The way they pray, Lord, ain't the same the way we pray. You got to turn them away. You got to turn them away. And when they come through our doors, we say, hey. The way you dress right now ain't representative of whiteness. Because the church represents whiteness. I thought about this morning. I said, what do I wear? If I come in with my hoodie on, is that okay? Can I present in do I need to put on a shirt? I began to think about the conventions of whiteness that tells me this is how you present yourself as a speaker. Because if I present myself any other way, then my credibility becomes diminished. Look at the nigga up there with the hoodie on. And he called himself a doctor. If I didn't call myself a doctor, would I still have a platform? If I don't present myself, I'm going to move on because I will get too excited and delighted, and I will forget about what I'm here to do. All right, Bronfenbrenner. Bronfenbrenner has this theory of development that says that we are developed as a result of these different systems that encapsulate us. You have the microsystem, you have the mesosystem, the exosystem, and the macrosystem. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of these different systems, but I'm going to go into deeper detail here in a second. All right? The microsystem are the intimate relationships that you have. It is to say that you are not a product unto yourself, but you are a product of the relationships that you have, the intimacy that you have on a day-to-day basis. And when we look at this chart, we see a lot of different things. My parents as a child, my husband or wife as an adult, my children, my church, my job, social media. These things that I have a relationship with, that I interact with them on a day-to-day basis, they help shape and form who I am as a person. The mesosystem, we won't spend much time on that, but that is the interactions that the people that I'm in contact with have with each other. Yeah, that interaction between my best friend and my partner. They don't quite like each other, and it has an impact on me as an individual. The interactions between my children and my wife. Like, that's the mesosystem. The exosystem are indirect relationships. The relationship that I have with my child's school. The relationship that I have with my partner's job. My partner has a bad day at work. Me and them have a direct relationship of that bad day at work. But I have an indirect relationship with the job because the job created problems in my house. Now I got a problem with the job. You creating discord. We need peace around here. What's your boss's name? Let me talk to him real quick. Hello, boss. Don't be sending no problems back home to my house. We were supposed to have a pot roast for dinner, and the pot roast didn't even get cooked because you tripping. You better get your life right. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, we were supposed to have a good day until you went to work. You wake up the next morning and be like, don't go to work today. Nah, we'll figure it out, baby. I'll pick up some extra hours, whatever we got to do. You and that boss is making my life miserable. And then the macro system are the larger ideologies that exist in our social atmosphere. All right, I'm going to break it down a little bit more, but we're going to start talking about whiteness. This is where I feel like it gets a little redundant, but y'all just play along with me like y'all don't know this stuff. Is that all right? Okay, y'all having fun? Y'all feeling, because Dr. Ben said y'all was going to feel stretched and y'all going to have to get up and walk. Y'all ready to get up and walk out? It's okay, I'll turn around. No, okay. All right, I'm just making sure. I don't want y'all to get up and leave me. I'm looking at all the black folk in the room. They giving me head nods. They let me know I'm doing all right, Dr. Parker. She getting me. That's what you do when you black. You look around, you be like, and then you be like, all right, let me keep going. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop playing with y'all. All right. The phenomenology of whiteness. All I'm doing is regurgitating scripture to you. Think of me in this moment as an educational minister. Nothing of what I'm saying is original. I'm getting it from other texts, and I'm just bringing it to you in bite-sized pieces so that we can have a larger conversation. Make sense? So Ahmed says whiteness orients bodies in specific directions, affecting how they take up space. We're going to get into this in a second. We're going to go deep in it as well. It says whiteness supposes its neutrality and normalcy. Whiteness is a currency, and gains value the more it goes unnoticed. And the last one I have for you, whiteness is real. It's material and it's lived. Let's get out of, like, I understand we say whiteness is an ideology, whiteness is a phenomenon. Whiteness is real. And it has real impacts on people. It has impacts on your ability to breathe. It has impacts on your ability to take care of your family. It has impacts on your ability to wake up in the right mental health state of mind. This ain't just, oh, no, this is real. And you are interacting with people on a day-to-day basis that are being impacted by this real thing. That's the one thing that I dislike the way we talk about whiteness sometimes. Is we talk, no, this is, I can touch whiteness. You can, let's talk about the body. Because this is where we're going to get a little deep. I don't want y'all to get uncomfortable with me, but the body is really important. This is what Frantz Fanon said. You got to understand, Frantz Fanon, he was this black Frenchman who wrote a book, Black Skin, White Mask. The thing that I took away from that book, I don't have it up here, but the thing that I took away that book, he talked about interracial relationships. And he says something to the effect of, when you think about whiteness, for a black man, a white woman is the ultimate prize. Because when you show up at the club with your white woman, that is the ultimate currency to get in. Because it signals to the bouncer at the door of the whiteness club that you've completely assimilated to this ideology of whiteness. Yeah, I can show up with the haircut. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I can show up with the haircut. I can show up with the language. But when I show up with this white woman, y'all be like, oh, yeah. Because you can't even fathom that I've maintained my pro-blackness and I got a white queen. I don't even know if it's possible. And so Fanon, that's why I deal with Fanon, because that was, to me, I was like, ooh. And I start looking at athletes, and I start looking at professionals, and I start asking myself, what was wrong with the first wife? And I start thinking about the second wife, and I start saying to myself, despite all of you still needed that last validation, because whiteness I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so Fanon says, and then the occasion arose when I had to meet the white man's eyes. An unfamiliar weight burdened me. The real world challenged my claims. In the white world, the man of color encounters difficulties in the development of his bodily schema. Consciousness of the body is solely a negating activity. It is a third-person consciousness. The body is surrounded by an atmosphere of certain uncertainty. I own a wedding venue, and I often do the tours of the wedding venue. And I've noticed that there's a difference in how people respond to me as the owner, and it's based on color. See, y'all may not realize this, but I'm 350. I'm dark-skinned black. I know this might go over some of our heads, but there's a difference between being dark-skinned black and light-skinned black. And I'm not taking anything away from my light-skinned brothers and sisters, but my blackness is aggressive. My voice is deep. My body is big. My skin tone is dark. And so when I answer the door, if you are lily white with your lily white mom, it's different. I'm not trying to paint nobody as racist. I'm just saying, when you open the door because you excited because I'm getting ready to get married and I'm at this wedding venue and I want to see who owns this beautiful property, and I open the door, I see it every time on their faces. We weren't expecting you. We didn't know that. I know I see it from them because I see it from my own. Bruh, you own this? Yeah, I own. Oh, okay. We feel welcome now. So, what am I saying? I'm saying this, that from the moment that door opens, the thing that I become aware of most is my body. Yeah. I need to be cautious of how I interact with this woman and her mother. If her fiance is there, I need to be cautious, because whether she realizes it or not, she has been fed images of men who look like me that have been negative. And so if I get a little too close because I just want to open the door, I need to be aware of how she's going to respond to that. So I start over here like, excuse me, I'm getting ready to open the door. I'm over exaggerating, but y'all get what I'm saying. Because I cannot afford to not be aware of my body. But I ain't the only one. How many of you all, when you got up this morning, the first thing you thought about was your body in relation to this place? I'm asking this rhetorically because you know who else thinks about their body daily? women. Whiteness orients their bodies too. Let's not just make this about race. But if I'm a woman, I have to think to myself when I wake up in the morning, how do I want to present this body to the world? How am I going to orient this body in a room that is filled with men? I can't get too close because I don't know what this body is going to send. I can't wear what I necessarily want to wear. I'm always uber conscious of my body and how my body interacts with spaces and people. That's the first step of whiteness, is that I can't just walk into the room. I first think about my body. How am I going to walk in this room? How am I going to present myself? And it ain't because no, it's strictly because I'm concerned that if I don't present this body in the right way, that I could be misunderstood. That if I'm listening to music and I come in here, I'm wearing black pants. I had on a black hoodie this morning. I got my hoodie on. And this didn't happen to me here, but I think about, oh, can I walk in there like this? Can I present myself in all of my Trayvon Martin-ish to say, I'm Dr. IJ, I'm here to present, but will I even get that opportunity to say that before you say, hey, I don't know who you are, but this may not be the place for you because the way your body is oriented in this moment. Is this making sense to y'all? Like you really, this is why I say whiteness is real. Because it's real to me how my body interacts with this space. It's extremely real to me because, again, my blackness is aggressive. And a non-aggressive act from this body is interpreted as aggression. I was watching a YouTube video. It was two people walking down the runway, a woman walking this way, a male walking that way. The male had something on his shirt, so he was brushing it off his shirt. But as he walked past the young lady and brushed it off his shirt, she went like this. Because her first thought was, he's trying to touch my butt. You got to think about this. He was unaware of his body. He was white. I'm only saying that I wouldn't have been up there swiping at my clothes, getting ready to walk past a lady, because I would have said to myself, stop. Yeah, stop. Because I see her seeing me before she even knows she see me. So how you doing? Because whether you know it or not, I know that you're gone. I know that. Because of the way whiteness orients our bodies. Whiteness oriented her body in that she had automatically assumed that he was going to do something that he had no intention of doing, because whiteness has taught women that your body is something to be objectified. That whether I have rights to it or not, I can touch you in any way, form, or fashion that I please with or without your consent. So, oh no, you can't touch this. Well, why is you responding like that? Because whiteness has oriented me like this. Again, remember what I said. Legislation is the greatest proof. Well, women didn't have a right to vote when it first started off. Y'all was treated just like I was treated, maybe a little bit better. But you were still seen as somebody's property, somebody who did not have a say-so, who did not have rights. You 13 years old, you still a child, but I'm giving you to somebody else for a dowry? What the hell is a dowry? So you don't even recognize my humanity. I'm nothing but a cow to you. That's my whole value. They're going to give me 2 oxen, and I'm going to give them you. Ooh, what? For real? Daddy, that's all you think I'm worth? Mama, that's all you think I'm worth? Is a dowry? Daddy, would you sell yourself for this dowry? Well, is this, y'all with me? All right, I'm just making sure. Y'all looking at me strange, as if I got egg on my face or something. All right, we're going to hop back into Bronfenbrenner. Now, think about what I've been saying this whole time. We're going all the way back to Baldwin, but we sticking with Bronfenbrenner. Bronfenbrenner says that within this system, this microsystem, based on the attachments and relationships that I have, I begin to develop my identity as a human being. I begin to develop my gender identity. I begin to develop my sexual identity. And for us in this case, I begin to develop my racial identity. I look at my mom and my dad. If they are black and I am black, I begin to develop a sense of positiveness around blackness. I begin to say, okay, this is what black is. And so if I am black and my parents is white, I'm a little confused, but I begin to nevertheless develop a racial identity. Just unfortunate that the racial identity that I begin to develop is probably white, because I don't know that there's a difference between mom and dad and myself. And then I start going to school, or I start developing a friend group, or I get involved with social media, or I go to church. And now my racial identity is no longer impacted just by the people who live in my home, but it's starting to be impacted by people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. So the first kid that says, hey, why are you so black? They let me know that there's a difference. I looked at my parents. My daddy just as black as me. I never even thought to ask my daddy, Daddy, why are we so dark? I went to the playground. I played with somebody who was a lighter skin than me. Maybe they were a different ethnicity than me. And they said, why are you so black? I said, well, I don't know. I've never had to ask this question before in my life. So now as a child, I'm beginning to develop my identity based on these ideas of whiteness. What idea are you talking about? The idea that black is different. The idea that we have to state it. Right? Well, why are you not telling me about why you so light? Oh, because I'm white. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm just white, but you black. And so we need to talk about you being black, because my parents told me I got to treat you differently. You got to treat me differently? Yeah. They didn't say badly, but they said you black, so you do things different. So now I'm beginning to develop this identity. Again, like I said, this happens with everybody. Whoever you are, you begin to develop your racial identity within this microsystem based on the conventions of whiteness. Everybody with me so far? I'm going to my boy, Tanahashi. Tanahashi says, in accepting both the chaos of history and the fact of my total end, I was free to truly consider how I wish to live. Specifically, how do I live free in this black body? It is a profound question, because America understands itself as God's handiwork, but the black body is the clearest evidence that America is the work of men. The next quote from Tanahashi says, here's what I would like for you to know. In America, it is traditional I need you all to understand this. See, one of the most insidious things about whiteness is that my body is constantly under surveillance. I can't go nowhere without being seen. I can't walk into a room without being seen. I can't get on the airplane without being seen. Like, there's no space for me to be incognito. I've tried it. It fails every time. Because either I'm the only black in the PhD program, or I'm the only black who talks this way, or I'm telling you, I'm always seen. Do you know what it feels like to always be seen? To never be able to disappear? To simply want to fade into the background, but I can't fade into the background because everybody notices the 350-pound dark-skinned black man. It ain't a racial thing. It ain't a racist thing. You just notice me because that's what you've been taught to do. My own people have been taught to notice me, to see me, to not always think positively of me. Because we continuously throw these images out there that says, hey, you need to be aware of this because of these potentials. And what I need you to understand is that what we seen last night on the video is the heritage of what this country really is. That whiteness is aimed at destroying the black body. That any opportunity, that's why when my sister said, hey, they need to take this class. Why? Because they have been indoctrinated in whiteness, and it don't matter that you black, because whiteness has taught you as a police officer that your job is to destroy my body. You got to understand what I'm saying to you. It's dangerous for me to live in this skin in the same way that it's dangerous for a woman to be alone by herself when their lights ain't on at night. Because America has been taught to destroy your body too. You got to really understand what I'm saying here. When I talk about whiteness orients the body, what I'm talking about is its sole possession is to demean me in such a physical way that I'm either dead or broken. And we started in slavery. When you didn't do what I needed you to do, I broke your body. I was going to beat you into submission. Now we intellectually destroy the body. Because instead of you walking in with your broad shoulders and your head held high, I see babies go to school daily, and every day their head come back a little bit lower, and their shoulders a little bit more slumped. And pretty soon that confident kid that I once knew no longer exists because the educational system has intellectually destroyed his body. And I gotta admit to you, I'm so accustomed to this country wanting to destroy black bodies that I didn't even notice what happened in Memphis. Yeah, it happens frequently, far too frequently, that it doesn't even, I got to present tomorrow. I got to think about my kid. I got to think about my business. I know it happened. I don't have capacity for that right now. If I gave capacity to every time this happens, I don't even know if I can be happy, if I can have joy, if I can be me. It's destroying my body every time because I feel every blow. I feel the knee. I mean, really. Sometimes I wake up and because when you're tapped into a collective consciousness, what ends up happening sometimes is that pain becomes transferable. It's not a black mother that has not seen his mom crying and did not feel viscerally that pain. First thing I saw when I seen the picture, I said, Emmett Till? First thought that came to my mind. Why? Because these are reminders, and it's important that we see these pictures because they're reminders that the heritage, you understand what I'm saying? All right. Y'all good? Can I move on? Y'all sure? Y'all don't want to, I'm not stretching too far, am I? All right. Whiteness is neutrality. I work with a lot of like diversity, equity, inclusive initiatives. And one thing white folks always say to me in the room is like, we don't see ourselves as better. We don't see ourselves as superior. I used to argue that. I used to say whiteness for sure sees itself as superior, hence white supremacy. And then I understood, nah, they really don't. See, when I say American, you think white. Like, it's just a reality because everybody else has to have an identifier before they say American. If you are Asian, you have to say, I'm Asian American. If you are Mexican, I'm Mexican American. If you are black, I'm either black American or I'm African American. The only group that gets to assume Americanism is white folks. That's the neutrality that peaks its head. Because what it says is, and I'm a math person, it says I'm at 0. I'm not better than you. I'm at 0. I'm not at 5. I'm not at 10. I'm at 0. You just happen to be at -10. I'm not better. I'm 0. You just happen to be negative. You just happen to be African and then American. Well, what does that mean? That means that we had to legislate your rights. You weren't born into the heritage. You are an adopted son. And as an adopted son, you never forget your adoption. Because something, somehow, and this country is not afraid of telling us, you can always be unadopted. We can always take you back. We can always drop you off. Don't forget about it, right? We're at 0. We're not better than you. We don't want you to think that we're better than you, but just understand you're not at 0 with us. You negative. Well, what do I mean? I'm going to get into this in a second, but, you know, basketball players, they used to have a problem. I remember Allen Iverson back in the day. Allen Iverson used to come. He used to dress before the game like he was a rapper. Had on the baggy clothes and stuff, had the bandana on, had his crew with him, right? He used to come with his crew. They used to come to the games. Nobody understood that, like, he was a symbol of hope for his whole crew because they've been dreaming about this all their lives. Your success is my success. My success is your success. And we killed him. We crucified him. We beat him up. Why do you bring all that dead weight with you? Why do you dress like that? Why do you act like that? You're an athlete. You're a professional athlete. You're a role model. You have to present yourself in a certain kind of way. Present myself to who? Who am I a role model for? It's not your kid. It's the kid from my community. So what you're telling me is that my definition of professionalism is not equal to your definition of professionalism. But you don't want to say that you think that your definition of professionalism is better than mine, so you say my definition of professionalism is just the standard. It's just the norm. But we never ask who created that norm. Because what's normal for you may not be normal for me. But when I say, no, it's the norm, that means that whatever you are doing is not the norm. Is not neutral. It is something different. And it is something that needs to be changed. All right. I'm going to the next one. Whiteness as currency. There are 3 different ways I need you to understand whiteness as currency. The first is color. It refers to the advantages that folks receive simply based on the virtue of the color of their skin. I always use a club example when I think about whiteness as currency because, you know, when when you go to a club, well, some of y'all may have never been to a club. Some of y'all look like y'all been in church all your life. Let me tell you, as somebody who frequents a mini club, you know what I'm saying? You can get into the club, but there's levels to it, you know what I'm saying? Like the first level is I got into the club. The second level is maybe like I got a bottle. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get a bottle, they don't just give you a bottle, they give you a bottle and a table. You know what I'm saying? You get to rest your feet. And then, then you get like VIP. Now you're in a VIP booth. I'm giving y'all some clubs just in case y'all ever find yourself in a club. Y'all know this stuff. Then if you really good, if you had a real exclusive club, they got a back room. But everybody don't get into these different stages of the club. Like sometimes you think, oh, because I got a pocket full of money, I get into the back room. No, the back room is strictly for the highest of the highest VIPs. Your money might get you access to the VIP booth, but it don't give you access to the back room. On the contrary, somebody busted and disgusted ain't got as much cheese as you got in your pocket. You see them going into the back room, you be like, well, why do they get to go into the back room? Because they have a higher level of currency than you do. Color. It's what gets you past the bouncer. When I stand in line at the club and my man right here stands at line in the club, they look at him, they say, you white, go ahead. They look at me, they asking me questions because I got to prove my whiteness. If I don't speak a certain way, if I don't present in a certain way, if I don't have enough capital, right? They be like, you ain't white enough, man. You got to. Well, what about him? He dressed just like me. Yeah, but his skin is white. The color of his skin. And so that was just enough to get him in the door. That's the currency that he used in this case. Next, we have culture. And culture is defined by behaviors of white folk. And it's often considered the right way of doing things. Now, this is really important because this sometimes is the hardest thing to see. Because as you were growing up, your parents taught you the right way of doing things. And you grow up thinking that the way that I do things is the right way. And then when I say this to you, right, that like culture is defined by the behaviors of white folks and it's often considered the right way of doing things, for some of you, you're like, but isn't it the right way? And see, I think you are confusing right with only, right? It might be the right way for you, but it is not the only right way. But we think like, no, so when you go for a job interview, what do you wear? Think about it like this. I'm going to say that. No, listen, I'm going to give it to you. Trust me. As the song says, give it to me, baby, give it to me. I'm going to give it to you. Trust me. But it's considered that, right? It's how, let me use Pastor Ben as an example. I love Pastor Ben because I would consider Pastor Ben to be a cool cat. But Pastor Ben, tell me if I'm wrong. When you first got into the ministry, they told you there was a right way of doing things, right? Like as a man of God, there's a right way that you have to present yourself to your congregation. I know I ain't. Have y'all ever heard of this brother named Pastor Michael Todd? Didn't nobody white say, oh, yeah. I said, that was, you can't make comedy up like that. There's all the blacks over here was like, oh, yeah, come on, amen, hallelujah. This whole side of the room was like crickets, like we ain't never heard of bruh in our life. Who is he? How old is he? Like, where is he at? Is he here? Is he in Charlotte? Y'all are comedy. All right. If you get a chance, go look up Pastor Michael Todd. Pastor Ben, you know who Pastor Michael Todd is, right?
Okay. When you see Pastor Michael Todd, he is with this new age ministry where you come to church and then the person who least looks likely that they about to preaches because you like ain't nothing about what you wearing right now says preacher, right? He becoming like stylish, hair is in braids, like latest. And it every time I see him, I say, that's not the right way of being a minister. That's not how you're supposed to present yourself. Why? Because somebody told me a long time ago that pastors wear suits, shirt, tie, coat, Stacy's. You present yourself in a certain way. They even went so far as to say, and you don't want anything flashy. Wear some like nice brown shoes with a nice blue, black, or gray suit, white shirt, blue, black, or gray tie. And y'all remember when ministers started coming with purples and yellows and watches on? You got so distracted from the word because he wasn't presenting himself in the right way. And nobody ever stopped to think, what right way is that? Because the minister is the ultimate representation of whiteness. We see him and how he presents himself, and we say, oh, that's what white professionalism is. Look at how my pastor dressed. I know that because when I went for an interview when I was a kid, my mama said, we're going to dress you like the pastor. We're going to take you to the pastor place where he get his suits from. You're going to be a little mini pastor walking around here, and you're going to get the job. But mama, I don't like the way he dressed. But this going to get you the job because this is the right way of presenting yourself, right? It's cultural. And sometimes we be like, oh, there is multiple ways of doing things. Okay. The next one is consciousness. Consciousness is beyond behavior. Consciousness is the structured, normalized way of thinking and believing. I got a kid, Latino. He got accepted into Harvard. He got accepted into Yale. He got accepted into Brown. He got accepted into Stanford. And he got accepted into Sac State, which is a university in Sacramento, California, where I live. He was from Sacramento, where I live, right? What school did he choose? He chose Sac State. And he got killed by all of his teachers. Because how could you choose Sac State, a school that if you ain't from California, you probably have never heard of, over Harvard, Yale, Brown, and Stanford? For him, it was real simple. I ain't got no daddy. I can't leave my mama. I got little brothers and sisters at home. I need to be here. No. Because white consciousness, right, says you are an individual. Your job as a child is to go to school, get your education, and begin to create a life for yourself. But when you are somebody like him who is coming from a Latino family, his job is to take care of his family. And all of his teachers who were white were saying, it is not your job as a child to take care of your mother. It is her job as a parent to take care of you. Well, that's because of the consciousness that you are in. The consciousness that I am in as a Latino male is, no, I have to take responsibility of, because I'm their covering. If I leave, the covering leaves. It's a cultural consciousness difference that under whiteness as currency, guess what? He lost currency not going to Harvard. Because not only will people see his degree from Sac State not on the same currency level as a Harvard, but now people in the community are not even looking at him as the savior they once thought he was, not his own people, right? Because you were supposed to be the one who got out. And when you chose not to get out, you revealed to us that you're no different from the rest. You haven't adopted our consciousness that requires you to choose the individual above the collective. So it's not simply that white, see, that's where we get whiteness is just, no. It's not just skin color. It's if you don't have the skin color, if you are those police officers, can you prove to me that you've adopted the culture of whiteness and that you've adopted the consciousness of whiteness so that when you see your own, you don't even recognize them no more? It's not, see, and that's where we get confused. It's not about color. It's about, do you walk the way they walk, do you talk the way they talk, and do you think the way they think? And if you don't, is there space and opportunity for you to walk differently, talk differently, think differently? And with whiteness, there's no space to do that. You are either a believer or you're not. You have either assimilated or you didn't. Because if we catch wind of any of you still in there, one of the most visceral scenes in the movie's Roots was when he was beating Kunta Kinte. And the sole purpose of him destroying that black body was so that he would say one word, Toby. If I ask you this question, what is your name? The answer is going to tell me everything I need to know about your ability to assimilate our culture and consciousness. If your response is anything other than Toby, Toby was not representative of a name, it was representative of a system. And that's what Kunta Kinte was fighting in that moment in that movie. If I give you my name, I've given you my everything. I've signaled to everybody else in this camp that I'm now one of you in mind, body, and soul. And I will do everything that I can do for the rest of my life to adhere to the culture and consciousness of whiteness and deny the culture and consciousness of blackness, even though I'm always aware of both. Because the minute I walk through that body, my body is oriented. And I understand how I see myself, and I understand how you see me. Each represents an aspect of currency that each on its own can be leveraged in the form. However, the addition of these three is the ultimate form. So look, here are the consequences of whiteness as currency. When you have whiteness as currency, whiteness then becomes the common ground. Let me explain this. When they had the G8 summit, y'all know what summit I'm talking about? One of them summits, right? Y'all ever notice they do their best to communicate in English? That leaders from all over the world, they all wear suits and ties? Because in that space, whiteness is the common ground. It doesn't matter that you coming from Asia, Russia, Africa, Middle East. In this space, whiteness is the common ground. And so by default, we get you to assimilate in some way, forms, or fashion, because you understand that in order for us to participate on this level, you're not going to come to me, I have to come to you. But it goes even deeper than that. I find this among my own community, that when we get together as a collective and we begin talking about issues that pertain to the black community, we often find ourselves meeting at whiteness to be able to discuss the issues of blackness. Because all of us, or most of us, or a good percentage of us have been educated. And so one of the things that they teach you in the educational system is not how to read and write, add and subtract, but how to be white. So the way we conduct our meetings are white. Now all of a sudden I'm irritated when you want to give libations. Why are we starting with libations with our meeting? I have an agenda. Libations ain't on the agenda. We need to follow the agenda. Why? Because whiteness has become that common ground. I don't even know what to do. What is a libation? I don't even know. Who do I pour it for? Y'all getting spiritual? We here to talk about like, I start losing my mind when we veer away from the common ground of I know how a meeting is supposed to run because I went to college. And they taught me in college how a meeting is supposed to run, and I never questioned that if the meeting that we are running is built in a framework of whiteness or in a framework of something else. So now I find myself in a meeting raising my hand to speak when I ain't never had to raise my hand in my household. Why? Because we're meeting at the common ground of whiteness, a white cultural practice. Raise your hand before you talk. They taught me that in school when the teacher said, what's 2 + 2? I said, 4. And the teacher said, thank you, Ijeoma, but raise your hand next time. And then Mark raised his hand. Yes, Mark. 4. Good job, Mark. Wait a minute. Does Mark know what 2 + 2 is? Or did he just repeat my answer? He getting the praise, I'm getting the, like what? Now when my mama come to parent-teacher conferences and you sitting down with my mama, and my mama's like, well, how he's doing in school, the first thing you say is, he's good, but he needs to learn how to follow the rules. Huh? I need to what? Yeah, like he need to come to this common ground because he know all the answers, but he just be blurting them out. And like, I don't know how to respond to a kid that just blurts out the answer, so I need him to raise his hand. And like, he needs to be more like Mark. You do know Mark don't know the answers, right? He just said whatever I say, teacher. Like, but now because of that experience, when I'm in a meeting with other black folks talking about black issues, because this is the common ground that we've settled on how we communicate with each other in this space. Does that make sense? Some of y'all thinking right now, like, man, what is these common ground practices that I didn't adopted? All right. Once whiteness becomes a common ground, then your culture starts to get replaced by whiteness. You start to forget who you are. I see this with my English as a second language folk. Because when they get into spaces with each other where they should be communicating in their native language, they start communicating in English. And then pretty soon, you ask them a question and they say something to the effect of, I really don't know how to say that. I think this is what it means, but since I don't practice the language, I've lost it. And my native language has been replaced by English. Because even when I get an opportunity amongst my own community to speak in my native tongue, I either speak in your native tongue or I mix the two. And I don't even realize how I'm losing my culture and it is being replaced by, because next thing you know, I'm like Fanon and I marry somebody white. And this is a whole different level of Fanon, because when I marry somebody white, it's not just that I'm marrying somebody white, but I'm marrying somebody who is everything that is whiteness. So my children, the way they see themselves, the way they speak, the way they dress, everything about them is going to be in part white. And if I'm not careful, it's going to be all whiteness. Why? Because as parents, we agree that whiteness is the common ground. So the way we choose to raise our children is not within the traditions of blackness, but in the tradition of whiteness, because white has become a common ground in my household because my spouse is uncomfortable every time I bring up black practices. He or she is way more comfortable operating in whiteness because they don't understand that when they're operating in whiteness, even though it's oppressive to me, they don't want to be oppressed. So they say things to me like, I'm uncomfortable and I don't know how to do that. And I get so beat up by having these continuous conversations about why I want to raise my children black that I give up and I say, okay, fine, we'll raise them the way you want to raise them. Because I can code switch and you can't. But we're going to raise another generation of folks that can't code switch because they're going to think that this is the only way of being. And again, culture is lost. Does this make sense? I think y'all sure this is making sense? I just, I ain't, because I'm talking about interracial, right? I shouldn't be doing that. Y'all good with that? It's what happens. Let me give it to you another way, because I know y'all looking at me strange. How many of y'all bathe at night? Okay. We got morning bathers in here? Okay. Us morning bathers, you ever notice how the night bathers be gangbanging on us? They act like we so nasty because we want to bathe in the morning. Hey, you bathe in the morning? You don't shower at night? Well, what about your dirty feet getting in the bed? They just dirty. I don't know what to tell you. You don't want to just, when you get in a relationship with one, they be like, you don't want to just hop in the, they be being like over dramatic, you know what I'm saying? He'd be like, oh, babe, you got out the shower early tonight. Yeah, I left some hot water for you. What you trying to say? I'm trying to say I think you a dirty one. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Well, inevitably, when you have kids with this person, y'all got to choose a routine for how the kids go to bed, right? And the night bather always want to, y'all go get in the shower before your daddy see you. You come in the house, why they in the shower? Because you nasty, and I don't want them to be nasty like you. So I'm raising them to be different, right? Now all of a sudden, I'm the last night bather in my generation, you know? Since my kids don't bathe that night no more, they kids ain't gonna bathe that night. I be praying that they marry a morning bather, like, please, let her marry a morning bather. We need to bring this tradition back. Y'all laughing, but I'm being serious. They be gangbanging on us. They be like, I don't even want to get in the bed with you. All right. The question that I have here is, what happens when culture is replaced? Like, you got to think about that. What happens when culture is replaced? The reason why we're having a conversation about whiteness today is because my culture is dying. The more I adopt whiteness and the conventions of whiteness, the more blackness becomes something that is just a memory. Because it's no longer about you as someone who may have white skin who is telling me that my behaviors are bad. It's my own kind. They have redefined for me what is ignorant based on a definition that was never our own. How can you be so loud? Because this is who I am. This is a cultural tradition. Why can't you be more like who? Say it. I need you to say it, verbalize it. Because now we have issues within our own family. Why? Because the culture is dying. All right. I'm almost done. They looking at me saying, like, wrap it up, Dr. IJ. Bronford Brenner again. Everything that I just talked about, when we think about the exosystem, again, these are the indirect relationships that we have. But the problem is that I might be in relationship with her, and at home we get to practice our whatever. But then she has to go to work, and when she goes to work, she has to use the currency of whiteness. That's the only way she makes it through her workday, is I have to operate with the currency of whiteness. And indirectly, that impacts me at home. Because pretty soon that currency starts getting used in our own household. It's a great trend that we're having nowadays, but it's like black folks are starting to go to black therapists when we want help. Because for years, black folks been going to white therapy. And when we go to white therapy, because they don't understand our culture and consciousness, they are giving us remedies to problems that ain't problems. And so the more, I gotta hurry up and get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I know they looking at me strange. All right. The supremacy of whiteness, it makes white privilege possible. It is the process of securing domination, and it creates privilege where being white accrues certain advantages. Here's the kicker here. When we seen all of those people storming the Capitol a few years ago, you have to understand the reason why they were doing that. They were defending and protecting whiteness. And you can say whatever it is that you want to say about them, but they were doing what they were supposed to do. By the definition of what it means to be a white supremacist, you are supposed to pay attention to what is happening around you. And as you begin to see people eradicating your culture and your consciousness, you are supposed to fight back. I do not know why we expect people to be hit and not hit back. Because whiteness taught us that you ain't supposed to hit back, but blackness taught us if you get hit, you better not come home with your lip bleeding and they ain't bleeding worse. Because human nature is, if you hit me, I'm going to fight. I'm going to resist. It's only in whiteness that you're supposed to get hit and keep allowing them to hit you in the head and not do anything back. That's why Audre Lorde said the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Why? Because y'all out here peaceful marching when they ain't peaceful about destroying your body. What does that mean? If I'm using the conventions that you have given me, the tools that you have given me to fight warfare with you, then you already know what I'm going to do before I do it. You ever had that with your kid? When your kid come to you and they try to do some reverse psychology on you using the stuff that you gave them, and you be like, you know I wrote the rule book on this, right? You can't pull a quick one on me. I taught you that. What is you doing? Like, you better go invent some new tricks and come back and try to trick me. And keep in mind, I ain't gave you all my tricks, so there's some stuff in the bag. But that's what, so here's the deal. All of you, you're not necessarily supremacists, but you assent to white supremacy. And I raise my hand in that too. And I'm going to tell you how. I need you to understand this. Whiteness don't need your permission to act on your behalf. When I said he gets into the club because of his white skin, he didn't have to look at the security guard and say, I didn't give you my permit. No, bruh, that's the way this system works. I don't need your permission to work for you. I'm going to work for you because that's what the system is. It does not need your acknowledgement. Everybody that's in here, it don't need your acknowledgement to work on your behalf. I don't need my kids' permission or acknowledgement to do what a father wants to do for his daughter. It's been plenty of times, Daddy, I didn't ask you to do that, and I didn't ask you to ask me. I'm your daddy, and I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm going to do what I feel is best for you. You ain't got to acknowledge me as your daddy. You ain't got to ask me as your daddy. I'm your daddy. So I'm at your school talking to your teacher, looking them in their eyeballs, embarrassing you, because if they send you home with that BS one more time, they're going to have a fight. But daddy, but daddy me. This is the advantages of having me as a daddy. And guess what? It's going to be a time when you're going to say, Daddy, if you're honest with yourself, it's going to be a time when you say, whiteness. That's the whole idea behind the Karen. The whole idea behind the Karen is out in front saying, I don't give you permission, I don't acknowledge you, but when I'm afraid, whiteness, come save me, my name is Karen, I need some help. But Karen, I thought you said you wasn't no racist. Well, I'm not a racist, but you just called on daddy. Because I know in the back of my head that even though I don't acknowledge it, even though I may not identify with it, it's always there to protect me. I can't tell you how many times my daughter done been mad at me, don't want to talk to me, but it's a party. You ain't talked to me, you ain't said hi. I've been taking you to school, you ain't even acknowledged my presence. It's a party this weekend, and you need 50. Hey, Dad. How you doing? You hungry? It's on me. We can go to McDonald's. Oh, you changed your name early this week. What? You Understand, whiteness cannot be dismantled without structural changes. We can't do this within the system. When I bought my farmhouse, when I bought my farm, I looked at the farmhouse and I had to ask myself a question. Is this an inside job or an outside job? And what I meant by that is, can I take the sledgehammer and knock the walls down on the inside, or do we have to take the bulldozer and knock it all the way down? What I'm here to tell you today when it comes to white supremacy, y'all keep trying to remodel on the inside of the house, but the bones, the frame is still white supremacist. You got to knock that stuff out. You have to redo the whole thing from the foundation up. Because as long as we try to renovate and not demolish, we will never have a system. Because guess what? When you come to my house now, it's not until you get on the inside that you notice the difference. From the outside, it still looks the same. And so we have to understand that it cannot be dismantled until we do structural. Supremacy defends against dismantling. And then last but not least, your comfort is your ascent. And let me tell you this. Nobody can gangbang 24/7. You're a human being. You want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable. But understand in the moments that you choose comfort, you are also assenting to white privilege. You are also assenting to the system of whiteness. Because your comfort is in large part to your ability to adhere to the practices of whiteness. I'm a capitalist. I used to deny it until I realized it was important to me to have a nice car and a nice house. But being a capitalist means that I've adhered to a system of whiteness as it relates to what's in my pocket. And I have to ask myself, my pursuit of that car and that house, what is the impact that it has in terms of promulgating this system? Whether I realize it or not, every time I collect a check, I am supporting whiteness. Because what I've said is, even though I want to shake, rattle, and roll, I still want to be comfortable. And when you see a true revolutionary, a true activist, you understand that there's a sacrifice that comes with this work that not all of us are willing to make. Now, I don't say this to you for you to give up. I'm just saying it to you to stop saying that you don't assent, because you do. When you go to the dealership and you want that new car, you're assenting to whiteness in that moment, despite the fact that you are fighting against it in other moments. We are, as human beings, people of contradiction. And it is possible for you to devote most of your conscious time and energy to dismantling a system, but also understanding that I want to be comfortable. But don't forget what your comfort means. That's all I'm saying to you in this moment. Don't ever allow yourself to think of your comfort as anything else than what it is. Your comfort is what allowed them folks to storm the Capitol, because they feel like if they don't storm the Capitol, you won't be comfortable no more. And you're mad at them because they stormed the Capitol, but you're going to be thankful for them when you're sitting at home comfortable, because they see a time when whiteness becomes destroyed. And when whiteness becomes destroyed, all them privileges are gone. And when all them privileges are gone, you become uncomfortable. Because you don't realize how many times you call on daddy to bail you out of situations. You think you don't. You think you independent. You think, but I'm telling you, more often than what you realize, and that's the key. If you want to dismantle white supremacy, you have to become more aware of those moments when you call on daddy for help. Those moments where you're just like, oh, like I realize in this moment that I'm utilizing my whiteness to leverage a situation for my own benefit. Apologize, stop, and do different. But I'm never going to get to a place where I completely reject it. because that is the insidiousness of the system. It makes it so convenient for you to adopt its ideology that you don't even know the ways in which you've adopted it, because it disguises itself as normal, as right, as this is just how we do things. I can't tell you how many times some of my students have said, I don't have culture. Why? Because you think of things as normal, and you think of culture as abnormal. All right, I'm done. Y'all good? Just a couple questions. I promise. Just a couple questions, and then I'm going to leave y'all alone. These are for y'all to answer on your own time. How are you recreating white racial dominance? You got to be honest with yourself. How are you investing in white racial privilege? And how does your language support the institution of whiteness? If your kid came to you or your grandkid came to you today and said, I don't want to go to college, are you going to lose your shit? Excuse my language. Because they're telling you, I don't. So it's crazy because you're like, no, I just want what's best for my kid. But you do know what's best for your kid is them investing in this institution of whiteness. So again, how are you recreating white racial dominance? How are you investing in white racial privilege? And then how does your discourse support the institution of whiteness? I forgot I was on camera this whole time. This is going to suck. I've been walking all around through the cameras. All right, thank you, everyone.
Now you can see why we had to have Dr. IJ with us this weekend, right? Let's give another round of applause for Dr. IJ. I wish we had more time. There we go. Giving us a lot to think about for the rest of the day, for sure, for the rest of our lives. I want to give you all a little bit of time here. You've got lunch break from now until 1:30, and then we're going to go into our breakout sessions this afternoon. A couple housekeeping things for you to know. First, we had two food trucks coming. We're very excited about those food trucks. One of them is not coming now. And this is the part of what happens at conferences sometimes. But the food truck that is out there, and it's right out on the patio, they're prepared, they're ready, they've been cooking food for the last 30 minutes, so they're ready for you to come. Now, if you don't want to wait in line and you want to leave and you go off campus and get some food and come back, that's great. You got an hour and a half to do that. And so we invite you to take care of yourself and figure out. We got some snacks over here for those who need something while they wait for their food to come. So grab some snacks and find your way to the food truck and get yourself some lunch while you're here with us. We got a very exciting afternoon, 2 breakout sessions, and then a keynote lecture. There will be food later this evening, so we hope that you'll come back for that for dinner. And one other thing, obviously I mentioned already that there's a rally and a march that is at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. We've got Tim, raise your hand here. Tim right here in the middle is getting ready willing to take a group. If you want to go out to the courthouse and you want to be a part of the rally and the march, Tim will take you out there and we'll bring you back in time for the second session. So you only miss lunch and one session if you want to go to the march. And we encourage you to do that if you want to do that. You don't have to do that. You can also stay here and enjoy lunch as well. So take your time, enjoy yourself, and get some rest. And I know IJ may be willing to answer some questions if you haven't had time to ask that another time for us. So let's give IJ another round of applause, and let's have some good lunch.